I'm going to introduce our first speakers of the day we've been fortunate enough to have Marcus and his teams of students coming through and helping, annually, effectively. So new crop of potential graduates, MMR candidates coming through and presenting for us. We're lucky enough to have another group this year. They're going to be talking about coffee Gen Z segmentation that they conducted. Again, they have to get to class at the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to shut up. I'm going to hand off, and I'm going to let these guys get started. Marcus and team, you guys ready to go?
Good morning. Hello, everybody. My name is Marcus Cunha, and I'm the director of the Master of Marketing Research program at the University of Georgia. And we have our students presenting today, so I really appreciate you being here. You know, the young talent uh, that will be joining the industry. Get started with the presentation events that we'll be hosting. So we will be hosting this next week the Insights Night at the Delta corporate office. And Bill and Accelerant Research, they're going to be hosting a watch party. The in-person event is already sold out, but you can register online using the QR code that's available on the slide. So we're going to have a really great panel on AI and research, and also it is uh, is being led by Elise Martinez from Delta. So as I said, we're going to have like several watch parties. So if you can join Chicago, Charlotte, or Cincinnati, please do it. If not, register online. And one more announcement is that we are at peak of recruiting season. So if you're looking for top talent to join your team, please, we have the contact information. You can contact Sherry and let us know, and we'll share the position with the students. Right, so I'd like to welcome the students for the presentation of this project. This project was part of the final project in my course last fall.
Okay, well, hello everybody. We are a group of MMR students, like Marcus said, and we did a project on coffee Gen Z segmentation. A quick introduction first. I'm Savannah Schuler.
I'm Marlene Taylor.
I'm Hayes Miller. I'm Quinn Kavanaugh.
I'm William Badger.
So before we get into the Gen Z segmentation, we're going to talk a little bit about how we got to the process and the project we planned and are talking about here today. So it's no surprise that a lot of external business environments are shifting, and we specifically wanted to look at the coffee environment to see how these younger generations, specifically Gen Z's preferences about coffee consumptions are changing and how they are different within various groups amongst that generation. To do so, we wanted to look at two broad areas, which are consumption patterns and the reasons that they consume coffee. So this could look at wondering if you wanted a coffee at the beginning of the day, later in the day, if you prefer hot or cold coffee, if you wanted to change different flavors, or what kind of coffee, whether that be a latte or a normal cup. But it could also look like some more behavioral elements, such as how ritualistic you are with your coffee, or if it's more of just a habit to you, as well as how much commitment you're going to put into eating that cup of coffee at the start of the day or later in the day. How much time and money are you going to give up? But we didn't just guess at these objectives in these areas. We started with some secondary research first, which included a Mintel report on coffee and ready-to-drink coffee in the US for 2025, as well as an in-class focus group with some of our other MMR students who are frequent coffee drinkers to see what their experiences were. What we pulled from those secondary elements were three key insights. So primarily, it's not a question of if Gen Z are going to drink coffee. It's a question of when they're going to drink it, where, and what kind. So despite rising prices of coffee coming in, we're still seeing that they're going to get their coffee. We also see that in some areas there was a shift into this ritual rather than a routine. There's more intention being placed on drinking your coffee rather than it just being a habit. But primarily we see that there are differences in generations, and that's what led the team to jump into this segmentation here today.
So just a quick look at our survey design. We launched and built our survey using AYTM, and it was made up of various agreement scales or statements to explore the different consumer preferences that Savannah dove into, such as the consumption locations, brew styles, drink types, and more. And then a look at our sample. We surveyed 400 participants, and they were aged from 18 to 28, and it was made up primarily female at 71%. And then all of our participants reported that they drink coffee 1 to 2 days a week, with 40% of our sample reporting that they drink coffee daily.
Yeah, thanks for that background, Marley. Now we're going to transition into some of our actual findings, starting out with the methodology that we used. We conducted a factor analysis in SPSS to reduce those 28 sentiments down to just 6 underlying attitudinal dimensions. And then from there, we performed a cluster analysis to really segment these groups into different attributes that they shared, getting a little deeper just the demographics and getting into some psychographics and behaviors. We also looked at crosstabs to see if there's any differences across gender or income and different factors like that, and didn't see any significant differences either way, so didn't include that in the presentation, but just wanted to make you aware of that. Now, these are the 6 resulting factors that we came up with. The first one, experimentation and novelty. Second one being energy and focus dependence. Third one being willingness to invest and like try new coffees. The fourth one being home experience and routine enjoyment. The fifth one being at-home identity and quality preference. And the sixth being the mindful enjoyers.
Great. So before we jump into the segments we created, we just wanted to create an overview of what our survey results kind of said. So coffee drinkers primarily have their coffee in the morning, but the consumption persists throughout the day. So 55% drinks in the early morning, 58% late afternoon, 39% afternoon, and then 21% the evening. So these coffee drinkers, 76% of them do drink their coffee at home in the morning as their morning routine. So then we also investigate the different type preferences by location, and then 2 locations were at home versus away. So whether it be Starbucks, Dunkin', Jittery Joe's like we have in Athens, to kind of investigate those different differences. So we ran a top 2 box for the different types of coffee, and the only statistical significant difference we found was in drip coffee, with 35% being at home and then 21% being away. So that's kind of where we see the difference of like if people are going to drink drip coffee, they're going to be drinking it at home. So moving on to our segment insights. So we found 5 different segments, the first being the casual consumer, the second being the balanced enthusiast, the third being mindful ritualist, the fourth being the devoted home lovers, and the fifth being the experimental socializers. So again, our first segment, the casual consumer, here's neutral Natalie. She's 28 years old, a gym teacher making around $45,000 a year. She values routine, consistency, and ease. So for her coffee habits, she doesn't have a strong preference of a brand or a taste or kind of a style of coffee. So she's kind of that moderate coffee drinker. So when it does fit into her everyday life, she will drink it, but it's not a passion or a lifestyle, and it doesn't consume her every day. So kind of a quote to kind of say what she is she's kind of a take it or leave it kind of person. And throughout these different segments, we created different messaging to kind of target the different segments. So this messaging for neutral Natalie is effortless coffee every day.
And now for our next segment, student Stephanie. This is a balanced enthusiast segment, and she's about 24 years old, making $25,000 a year through odd jobs. So this segment values practicality, low cost, and emotional comfort. So they usually drink coffee at home because it costs less, and they also use it for focusing and studying, and they view it as a comforting daily essential. And so a message that would target this segment would be affordable fuel for your classes and your home.
Yeah, now looking at ritualistic Rachel, she's 26 years old. She works at a creative ad agency, making around $60,000 a year. And these are the people where Savannah hit on it earlier, they're really intentional with their coffee choices. This is a ritual. This isn't a habit. This is something they wake up every day and they're excited to drink their coffee. So some drinks she may prefer is like a pour over, a latte, or cold brew, something that takes a little bit more effort than a drip coffee. So some messaging that might work for her is crafted with care, made for intention.
And then we have our devoted lovers with devoted days. He's 26, making roughly $50,000 a year teaching math at his local high school. And whether it's in his home or in his classroom, he's valuing structure, consistency, and reliability. Then looking at his coffee habits, he is seeking out those ethically sourced beans that are being roasted in his hometown. And he's going home to use his high quality grinder to make his daily pot of drip coffee. And he's seeking a comforting, classic, and consistent flavor profile. So messaging for him would be find your daily anchor, the trusted quality built for your unwavering routine.
And then our last segment is Curious Carolyn. These are our experimental socializers. Carolyn's about 25 and she's working in the healthcare industry, making a little more than her other Gen Z counterparts. She wakes up every morning and she makes a drip brew cup with a slightly elevated machine because she has disposable, but she takes it on the road during her traffic on the way to work. She also enjoys a little latte, however. Pumpkin spice or peppermint mochas, those are really going to get her. She likes to try the new flavors, but she also likes this aspect of comfort. And these warm flavors bring her that. Messaging for her is that find the extraordinary flavor and comfort you crave in every new cup.
And so finally, for some business implications, we know that from the study that Gen Z consumers are very attached to their So for some segments, it plays a very important role in their lives, from ritual to fun experiment. Targeting the role it plays will drive business further. And so premium brands can invest early in these key segments like the devoted David and the ritualistic Rachel, because those are the segments that are willing to spend the money for those customized cups of coffee. And then finally, we think that for the fringe consumers like the neutral Natalie's, that they may not be the best segments to target directly. Thank you. Question?
Thanks, everybody. We need to take questions through the chat because unfortunately our speakers are not functioning. So let's see if
Yeah, and I'll try to help you guys moderate that as well. Yeah, so we do have a few minutes. If anyone has questions for the team, feel free to throw those into the chat or the Q&A, and we will make sure that we get them. It looks like Pam has a question coming in, and that is, can you all see this, or do you want me to ask these two?
I do believe that this was something that we had in our initial survey, but not something that we really wanted to highlight throughout. The question was about, did we look at any differences between temperature of cold versus hot? And did that make an impact in our segments? And that wasn't something that we were really looking at. We were more looking at like the time and effort that they put in towards the coffee, and less so of the style, but it is a question that we had in there.
Well, okay, so we'll handle the first one first. So there's a question from Philip Moore asking, how is a coffee company supposed to use the findings if we don't have guidance on media consumption? And we were more so trying to understand the general shifts among consumers. And so our scope did not include specific touch points, as it was a little more narrow focus. So ideally, it would be more information to use rather than a specific actionable item.
Gosh, they keep coding.
So,
Yeah, I mean, going to Erica's question, I think the one difference that we saw on what was being purchased, whether it was home versus away, was the drip coffee that we hit on. So if you were to purchase drip coffee, it was much more likely to have that being consumed at home. All the others, we saw no statistical difference across the board. But I would say our presentation overall was more so geared to the at-home coffee experience, with obviously like the Curious Carolyn, she would still go out and try the new flavors, but for most of all the others, it was the at-home experience that we were really trying to focus on. And then I can hit on the very small sample size for some of them. I would say overall, this was more exploratory research in general, where we were using some secondary analysis to get to this, and then would hope to do some further research to really dive deep in, maybe potentially look at some qualitative to dive deep into the two segments that could really provide some insight, and then target those more specifically. So even though they were a smaller sample size, now that we have a general idea of the people that we would want to go after, we could look to approach that with some deeper research in the future.
And we've definitely gotten better at cluster analysis.
Yeah, learning this semester. Yeah.
We actually had one segment that was like 5 people. It was very, very small. And we decided those can remain on there.
And then we do unfortunately have to get to class relatively soon, but really appreciate all the questions coming in. We can definitely look to save this chat and then get back to you at a later point.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And then please join us on the 25th for this great event. And thanks again to Bill and Accelerant for hosting. It's going to be an awesome. We have already 120 people in our sold out in-person event, and we have about 80 people that will be attend one of the watch parties or is going to be watching online. So we really appreciate the opportunity. I've been participating in this conference since its inception. During COVID, Bill reached out. I present on behavioral economics, and since then, our students have been presenting. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you guys online or in person next week at the Delta headquarters.